I think this is so funny. At one point, okay, I'll go to this now because I remember it. Tim is talking about that there's more competition, like that women shouldn't try to be girl bosses and CEOs because there's so much more competition with guys. Like you have to literally compete against guys, and there's no way you're going to get equal amounts of women as CEOs unless you have DEI. And then he pulls out this chart, female versus male grip strength, and I think it's cute that he uses it to make his point about CEOs. Let me see if I can start it up from here.
The guy thinks this is the least concerning thing I have ever had to deal with in my life. But that then confers to the men saying, sure, fine, whatever, I don't care. I don't care if you're gonna do X, Y, or Z, or the law says this.
It's a beautiful thing. Like my life is almost just beginning for desirable.
I like this point that
so
women's about to make.
They're tolerant of the crap. They're used to things being cruddy. And so now they're kind of comfortable. They start hearing women say, man, it's not fair. I'm having these things taken away from me. And the guy thinks this is the least concerning thing I have ever had to do.
Okay.
A lot of women in their 20s and especially into their 30s, they experience this. And there are so many TikTok videos of like women in their 30s in their car crying about how they're no longer desirable because a lot of, women's worth is, the dating marketplace, the sexual marketplace. So when these women aren't married and they don't have kids, they are faced with the reality that, yes, they do have less societal value. And it's terrifying for them because it's only going to get worse. But that is why, as a woman, motherhood is amazing. Like I'm going to be turning 30 and I have a lot of friends who are single, 30, like unmarried, they're freaking out. Their prospects look very different from mine. Like, I'm married, I have a family. Like I'm actually of the opinion, like now my life is really just beginning. Like now I'm going on the up and up. We can have more kids. It's a beautiful thing. Like my life is almost just beginning where it's like, if you are the single girl boss, your life is kind of ending at that point. And it's so disappointing to see that they don't realize that it didn't have to be this way for them.
With greater, I think all.
Can we just say Lauren Chen always looks flawless, like all her makeup.
So true.
I saw her checking into the hotel at Turning Point in Phoenix in December. I was like, oh my God, she had not a stitch of makeup on and looked better than me on my best day. I'm just
yeah, she's really beautiful, honestly.
Kiss her ass
and she's right here. She's right in that too. So,
yeah, it's almost like God. It's like have your kids if you want first, and then go be a feminist. Then go have it. It makes so much more sense to like go start your career at 35. I don't know. I wish I had a different message kind of growing up, but that's the thing. But there's some careers like stand up. You're not going to want to just start at 35 because the hustle, you can only really do it in your 20s, like the late nights, going to all the spots, putting in that time. No 35-year-old woman is going to be like, yeah, I have to put in 10 years right now before I even make a dent.
I started a little later. I mean, I was like a go-nowhere kid in high school, and then I went to school later. I didn't go back to school till I was like 25, 26. And then I went down and interned at 30 in Congress, and all of the other interns are like 18, 19 or 20 in their early 20s. And I was like, but even that, like, I wish, I mean, as much like fun as I had on the Hill or whatever, the time that it took me away from my marriage and away from my children, I can never get that back. And that's why I left the Hill to like just work for Tim booking at home now. You know what I mean? Like I gave that career up, even though there was plenty more to do, but it was negatively impacting my children. So like, I just couldn't do that anymore.
I think he's about to get into his chart.
All of you are probably have heard of greater male variability hypothesis. Are you familiar? So if we look at the strength chart, actually, it's pretty interesting. You can see that the median male strength, it's wider than female strength. Mm-hmm. So greater male variability hypothesis is that there are more failure men, but there are more exceptional men, right. And women tend to be more average.
We cluster around the mean.
Well, so think about what this means for entering the marketplace. You want to be the girl boss. You want to be the CEO. If you look at grip strength, which is not an indicative, doesn't necessarily correlate specifically with capability to run a company. Look at the guys.
I wish he had found a chart about like.
How about not at all?
It's so easy to find a chart about like male versus female CEOs.
But what he was trying to say was that these standard deviations are similar across certain things when it comes to male and female across all kinds of metrics. It's like women, like they said, there's like the few in there that are like the top or closer to the top, and then everybody kind of just like more normal. Men have, and it's like this across a whole bunch of platforms, like a whole bunch of different metrics.
Yeah.
So I think he just found the chart and was like, this is what I'm saying.
He could have found a very similar chart with the same metrics involving CEO positions.
And the high end, which are triple the median grip strength, the highest end of guys. There's 500 Fortune 500s. There are 330 million Americans. Let's say there's 150, let's say there's 80 million adult males. Only 5.
But I don't actually think the women that are of the girl boss feminist mentality, I don't think a lot of them actually want to be a CEO. I think a lot of them are really attracted to the financial independence and this feeling of like, a guy can't fuck me over and leave me and break me heart and leave me destitute if I have my own income. I think that's what the attraction is. Like, ooh, I'm less vulnerable if I make my own living.
I think I remember my mom always saying to me, like, always have your separate bank account. Like, do you want to ask your husband to buy him a present? Like, ew, cringe. Like, no. I get that, right? Like, you want to be able to seeing
when I spend at Sephora.
Right. Yes. Right. Like there is some of that, but I also think, and I think that's true. I think that most women are afraid of not being financially independent. However, I do know, and this is from my time working on the Hill, was there's a lot of girls that they would leave and come back and they missed, and they would tell me this, like they missed the prestige of saying, I work for Congress, right? Like I work for the Hill. It's impressive. People go, ooh, ah, when they say it. And so that's hard to give up for a lot of people because it's socially acceptable to think that your worth comes from whatever work that you do.
I think DC, similar to New York, the finance scene in New York City, similar to Hollywood, those are like high ego type A industries, like people who flock to those positions in those industries. I think there is like the ego component attached to the self-worth of these positions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm not saying that like I'm not one of those people that's like all women shouldn't work. Like if you do, that's fine. But I think that young women really need to realize that if you do want to start a family, like it's better for you, it's better for the children, it's better for everybody the earlier that you can do that. And you're more likely to be successful if you try to get that in before you do your career.
But that's what's, of course, and everyone knows it's better the earlier to start a family, the better. But like, we're still not going to change the fact that like men and women in their 20s are not, if we take a snapshot of how things are right now, the average 20, 25-year-olds can they really afford to start a family unless they have some kind of generational wealth or their parents help them out?
You can. Yeah.
Really?
You could listen, if you can make it work. My mom always used to say, like, if you really want to, like, you'll find a way to make it work. You really will. I used to see like people and they would be like, oh, I sold real estate in one of my former lives, right? And that's what my husband, that's his job, is real estate, right? And you'd see people like, oh, that's at the top of my budget. I don't know if I can make that work. And you know what? They find a way to make it work. They find a way to make that payment. Somehow some other way money comes in. Kids kind of take care of each other. There's hand-me-downs and all kinds of like, if you want to have kids young on hardly any money, you can do it. And there'll be plenty of kids that come out successful and fine, right? It's honestly about like how you raise them and not the amount of stuff you have. Like, that's like saying, poor people, you only have one TV instead of like 5. Like, you're fine. It'll work out. Have kids young. You'd be better off if you start a family and stuck together and built that all together. And eventually kids can help you anyway.
So what's young though? When we say like have kids young, like what age range would you say?
I don't know. Like
25, I would consider
25 and under. Yeah. I would say like 22 to 25 if you can. Under 30 is ideal. I mean, I had kids at 30 and I wish that I had them younger. I remember being tired and be like, wow, I had so much more energy 10 years ago. There were a lot of things that I think that I did wrong in my life as far as when it came to kids. I wish I had them younger, and there's more complications that come as you get older. Even with running around with them. Like even now I'm 42 and I'm going to help like all these baseball things. And I can't keep up the way I did 10 years before this. So I don't know.
But just the values are not in place. I just don't think
that's true.
I think so, but it's like have kids young, but it's also important who you have the kid with. Like I think it's hard when you have kids and then you don't have your partner with you that can help you. So it's
or a support
hard.
system. If all of your friends are in their early, let's say you have kids when you're 21, you're absolutely going to be an outlier in that situation. And now you're surrounded by everyone else that's your age, but they have a very different lifestyle. You have virtually no support system. Now, if that's different and you're in a situation where everyone else around you is in a similar place where they're married young and having kids young and you have an extended family, that's very different. But if you're by yourself, I think that's crazy. I think absolutely kids are amazing. Not everyone should be a parent. I think to say like everyone have a baby when you're young, like not everyone should be a parent. That is
I'm not necessarily saying everybody should have a baby. I think that we should encourage more women to have babies instead of putting their careers first. But also, like I don't know about you guys, but I've been through all kinds of friends. Like I've had friends come, friends go. The only people that are consistent is my family, right? Like I have my mom, my dad, and my brother, and that's it. We don't have a big family. We don't have an extended family, whatever. But like they are the people that you can't
a lot of people don't have life. That, though.
Okay, but even if you don't, I mean, honestly, my mom, my daughter was 6 months old when she moved an hour and a half away, and I'm like, "Aren't you going to help me babysit?" And she was like, "No." She was like, "I already have my kids. You raise yours." And she's been involved now, but like, it's not like I have my friends coming over. They were never part of my kids and their support system. That's crazy. It's like you and your husband and your partner, and then your kids, you know, through school or whatever things that you do with them, you grow those type of support networks. But honestly, the people that I went to high school with or college with or whatever, like, I mean, I still talk to them. We're still friendly, but we don't have our kids even do play dates. Like that's just not, and I don't know anybody that really does. I mean, maybe that's just my experience, but I don't think that you need a friend support system to have kids because your friends, like, what are they going to come? Like,
you definitely
change your diapers?
You do need a support system. Yeah. I would be so
of your friends?
fucked. Like, no, of anybody. Like, if Frank's mom was not helping us watch the baby as much, like, I would be, or if like Frank wasn't taking his like paternity days or not around as much, like, I would be drowning. I would be.
It was never a job for two people ever.
Yeah.
What is new is the whole nuclear system. There's this logical fallacy that everyone loves to fall to. I mean, it's true, and you can even like Google logical fallacy.
I don't disagree with that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She can't hear me.
It's this appeal to tradition, and we say like you don't need the support system, and you see this huge spike in women that say I have postpartum depression, and sure, maybe some of them do, but like I am in the firm belief that most of that is because you don't have support, you don't have help, you're surrounded by people that are telling you like what you, I guess they're not really appreciating the huge life decision that you made, which is to get married and have kids, because most people aren't doing that now. So it's wildly isolating. Like you are not supposed to be sleeping for 2 hours maybe at a time, waking up, changing a baby, having no one else to help clean, no one else to help cook, no one else to confide in. Like the mom needs like a massive.
Was that hard for you?
I know for a lot of women, yeah. And I had support.
When you had kids, like, was that hard for you? Because like I thought that was maybe I was breastfeeding, maybe I don't know, but I had no problem waking up every 2 hours. I'd wake them up, put them on my boob, put them asleep, and like. I mean, I didn't ever feel like I suffered with that. And so maybe that's where my bias is coming in, because it was such an easy thing with both my children that like, I felt I was meant to do this. But I think that things should go back to pre-industrial revolution when the man and the woman were still in the house. Like that's where I want to be. Men and women, there were still parenting things out there for fathers and advice for fathers on how to be parents. I don't think it should just be a mom stuck in a house either. But I absolutely think that, you know, you and your husband should be able to take care of that. They're like back before when there was like a village and they lived in small hamlets in the 1860s, which is my favorite time period to study. Like back then, they didn't have anybody else like living in their house, waking up every half an hour to help with every 2 hours to help with the baby. Like they were feeding that baby themselves. And then they had to go and hand wash their clothes and cook the dinner and go pull the feathers off the chicken. Like I get that we were conditioned to need more help, but honestly, I think that if it's perspective, like if you have a positive attitude going into it, like I can handle this and I can do it, you can mind over matter type thing for sure.
you must not know a lot of moms, because if you tell them mind over matter when they're in the middle of like a deep depressive episode and like they're drowning, I think that is so cruel.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of moms, but they all
you don't do
did
play
it like
dates.
this. They
You
all
don't
did
have
it
a
like
support system.
If you're not getting a break at all, like if I can imagine, like if I just in the 5 weeks, like my son's been alive, it's like, yeah, you're waking up every 2 to 3 hours. I'm exhausted by the time like the morning comes. I'm like, woohoo, it's morning, I made it. But then you're exhausted and they're like, sleep when the baby sleeps. You're like, fuck, even if I did that, there's no way like, and then you have to do all this cooking, all this cleaning, and I mean, I can't imagine if I also had to do a 9 to 5 job at this point. And I what upsets me is like the sort of rat race of like women have to go back to work just so they can pay for childcare
Yeah, it's
for their
huge problem.
kids. And then it's what, they're going back 6 weeks after giving birth.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Just so they
Yeah,
can
I agree with
afford
that. Women should stay home way longer. I think that women should stay home all the way up until minimum 5 years old. But
I'm gonna go back on this. I wonder if I should play it a little bit speedy. I'm gonna play it, and if we hear anything interesting, we'll pause.
Rage bait people with your posts.
Oh yeah. This is when she's talking
Children in
about
there, we
Pearl.
deserve our respect. Then you have white knights, and they're like, women
Right.
can never do anything wrong.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What's the contentious issue? Do we start with like the role of women? Lauren, your view, Pearl, your view. I know that there's a lot of conversation on X.
Sure. Well, I mean, just to get started, so I don't disagree with everything Pearl says, but I feel like Pearl is someone who, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I feel like you kind of enrage bait people with your posts, because you'll post something really like a super hot take on Twitter, and then like you'll make a video about it, and the video in turn is a lot more nuanced, a lot more, I guess, rational. So sometimes I feel like I'm struggling to see like what your actual views are versus maybe what gets the most traction on X. So I'm excited for this to have a conversation about it. But I guess the role of women in society is, to be mothers, to be wives, to support their families. How exactly that looks is going to differ from people to people. That's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily associate with the trad movement. I feel like trad refers to specifically almost the glamorization and in some ways fetishization of maybe like rural 1850s middle America.
Would you guys say that technically none of these women are trad because they're all content creators?
Right.
yeah, I would say that. Yeah. I think that the person that actually is the most like trad out of the bunch would be Isabella Riley. She's taken a step back. She shut down. She didn't shut down her channel, but she stopped doing her show. She's out of everybody. She would be the most. Yeah, but I definitely don't think they're. I think that even most conservative women today have a lot of internalized feminism from things that have come down the line, and it just is the way it is. Like,
I would have loved to see them. Let's like pull an Amish woman out from like Pennsylvania. Like just
we have a lot of them here.
Get somebody like really crunchy and squirrely on it, who's not used to like lights or cameras at all. I guess they probably wouldn't agree to do such a thing. That's who I want to hear from. The woman churning her own butter and shit.
At least on like what I see on TikTok. Whereas, I'm just a mom who works part-time from home and is basically trying to do whatever I can to help support my family.
Well, I would say there's character limits on X. So, you're not going to get a full opinion with like, I don't know, is it 60 characters?
140?
But I don't know, what tweets are you talking about? And I have like 18,000.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Right?
Like the ones that women should just expect to get cheated on, like those ones, you mean, Pearl?
Mean?
She's the worst. She's the worst.
Did you see her face?
Well, we actually I wanted to be specific here because I did pull some of the ones up. I sent them to you. I didn't want to like ambush you or surprise you or anything like that.
We want an ambush though.
Let's see.
And the role of women in society. Sorry, I was thinking what the second question was. Well, I think it depends. Like, what do we want it to be, or what is it now?
Right.
And I think right now it's like, we're not really doing much. We're not really having kids. We're not really contributing to the economy when you look at output. So it's like, what do we want it to be, or what is it? Because I wouldn't say women are doing what you described now.
Okay, well, one of the things that, like, I spoke recently actually with Rachel's husband, Andrew, and one of the tweets that I mentioned that I thought was kind of strange coming from you was that basically you said evil comes from women. Andrew, in his interpretation, he made a very rational, very nuanced. Actually, this is what
the whole evil comes from women. That's kind of like a Jesse Lee Peterson talking point. A lot of people have claimed that Pearl just takes a lot of red pill talking points from other people, like from what's his face, the guy that died,
Kevin Samuels.
What she means is it not true that there is a lower moral bar for women, blah blah blah, and it like Andrew's smart guy, made a lot of sense. That's not what the tweet was, and kind of funnily enough, you tweeted out later to clarify, Lauren, that yes, evil does come from women.
Yeah, well, because I would just look at every problem in society. It all comes from women.
To be fair, I just realized this the other day, but did you know that Hitler was made by a woman? That proves it.
Well, it's like you look at the homeless. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at school shooters. Most of them come from single mother homes.
What about the dads leaving? Is there not accountability for the dads leaving?
She has an answer for that.
Criminals, rapists. Most of them come from single mother homes.
No accountability for anybody's actions, though. It's like you're continuing to blame somebody else, which is absolutely ridiculous. And yeah, I'll be honest. In 2020, I watched a lot of Kevin Samuel videos. I thought, wow, this man is a genius. And then he died.
I liked him too.
I don't know who that is.
He was, I guess, would you consider him red pill? He was very good at I guess his content was aimed at Black women, and essentially my opinion of it was he was just trying to take very overly confident Black women down a peg by saying you're this such and such an age, you have this many kids, do not think that you can get a top tier man who makes 6 figures. You're 30 years old or you're 35 years old with 3 kids by how many different dads, just check yourself. That's what I took away from his content. Black women need to check themselves and ask or settle for less, essentially.
But this is Pearl's whole problem, right? And this is why I think she infuriates so many women, is that some of the things that she points out is true. A lot of the things that she points out originally are true, but then she blames it completely on women as if human beings aren't some type, they don't get they're not a product of their society. They're sometimes a product of their society, right? They get some of their things that they do and the way that the culture shifts,
better
right?
than your circumstances.
Well, I think the problem with Pearl, if we're being completely honest, is if Pearl was very hot and she was saying this, I would take it more seriously. But it comes off as a girl that is not very attractive, if we're being real here, saying this, and now she's getting the validation from men being like, wow, she's totally right, and she's getting validated in that way. If she was very freaking hot, she wouldn't be doing this. I don't know, it's very interesting. I feel like it'd be like me critiquing basketball when it's who am I to play basketball? I don't know. It's just very, that's the problem with it. It comes off as she is trying to get validation from men who are all in the comments yeah, Pearl's right. Women are evil.
Pearl. Why can't more women be like you, Pearl?
Right. That's so interesting, because the thing she critiques the most is women that are seeking validation from men, but she's kind of doing the exact same thing, just she doesn't have the tools to do it, which is the more obvious, natural way, which is your looks and your body. So she's got to use
Lisa, if you were saying all this stuff, that I would be like, oh, okay, because you're really hot, and it makes more.
It makes everything easier.
Well, it just makes it seem like you're coming from a place of more realness rather than coming from a place of I'm still trying to get validation from men who wouldn't like me if I wasn't saying this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I get accused of being a pick-me a lot. I don't like women. We all know I don't like women that much, especially heavy ones. They were mean to me when I was in grade school. We know that, right? They picked on me because I was excessively skinny, fine, right? So at least I can admit where that comes from. I don't like women. Every time I had them as a boss, they were manipulative and conniving, usually heavier, and did the same things, right? Like
True.
even my mom is like, I'll never work for a female. Like it's really how a lot of people feel. Women are like that. But what Pearl seems to forget is that women do things for male attention. And she's doing it right now. I guess maybe she's not self-aware. She can't see that. But like I put makeup on, you know why? I still want the people, even though married and kids, and I'm not trying to be with anybody. I still want people to be like, oh, you know what? She's attractive, right? Like that you want people to judge you by what you put out there in society. And women especially respond to validation, whether it's from their peers, females, whoever. And I don't know a woman that like really doesn't. Like you're not.
And it's funny to me because even in the beginning of this episode, when Lauren Chen was talking about, oh, when you turn 30 and all this will happen, it's like they're talking about turning 30 as if you're going to lose the ability to walk. Like you're going to become disabled. Like becoming ugly is a damn disability. You know what I mean?
Might as
like,
well.
You
turn into a troll.
Yes, that's what it's coming off as. And I think that, of course, when I walk into a room, I want to know that everybody, man, woman, whatever, ogre, troll, wants to fuck me.
Animal.
And it's my decision to say no. Okay, that is the truth. And I think that people, we do care about being attractive, and it's a lie to say that you don't want to be attractive. You do.
It's insane. Could you make the argument that Pearl does this not for male validation, but to make money, to have a job, to build her brand? Could you say that this is not for men? Like she does, because who knows if she doesn't like the validation or the
you do know her history, right? Like she dated this. Oh, guys, come on. So she dated this guy, right? And he left her for an older, hotter redhead. Okay.
It explains everything.
Oh, you gotta see her. You gotta pull her up. I mean, she's older than Pearl and hotter than Pearl. And
that's impossible. You can't be older and hotter.
By the way, this dude was like one of the ugliest
right.
dudes. This dude was one of the ugliest dudes I've ever seen in my entire life. You have to pull it up. Find it, Chrissy.
Where do I find this?
Just Google Pearl Davis ex-boyfriend, new girlfriend or something like that.
Okay.
Wait till you see, guys. You're going to be like, oh, it's a hotter version of her. No wonder.
This is all just because of a broken heart.
Dude.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay.
I'm interested to see that what will happen when she does turn 30. Is she going to pivot? Is she going to, is she going to maybe say that, no, your worth and value doesn't just come from your looks and it comes, you know what I mean? Like, I think that there
oh
could
my
be
God.
a pivot.
Sorry,
How old is
she? She is hot. She is very hot.
She's so hot. And she, where do you see this? I'm so excited.
Fucking Kidman.
Oh,
wow. No way. All right, now this is Reddit, but I didn't know where else to go.
I gotta make my screen bigger.
Pearl's ex and new girlfriend. Holy
Correct.
Toledo. Let me see. Is there a better layout I could do?
Oh, she's very pretty.
Woo!
He must like redheads. Yes.
Oh my God.
Told you. Yeah. And something just happened to him.
In every aspect of the game, you drop a pass, you run a mile. You miss a blocking assignment, you run a mile. You fumble the football.
So he's a content creator?
I will break my foot off in your John Brown hind parts.
He's stunning.
He got arrested. He just got arrested though for like beating on her or something like that. I don't remember, but like something happened with him. I don't want to say exactly what it is, but Pearl's ex-boyfriend got in trouble for doing whatever. I think that she had a couple anti-feminist takes and it started blowing up. And then, oh my God, that's really funny. And then like it just started taking off. And so she leaned into it. But I don't even think that she totally believes what she's saying. The thing that, what bothers me is like the whole women are hotter when they're 20 versus 32 or whatever. Fine. Like I will agree on average, younger women are more attractive than older women. But then I see these women who I love, like a lot of them I love. And they're like, I'm however old, I'm 42 and I'm hot, or I'm 32 and I'm hot. I'm like, stop. That's not making you hot. That just makes you look like you're now seeking validation. Please stop doing this. Like you're right. There are exceptions to every rules. There is an average. She's right on that part but that's not all you're about. And men, if you ask them, and women, if you ask them, like their age preference, it's usually 5 or plus or minus years of attractiveness to whatever their age is. So like, it depends on what they're looking for. Overall, yeah, females are more attractive at like 19 to 25. So what? Like, that doesn't mean that people just all of a sudden become hags. Yeah, you may be less valuable on the marketplace because people want to have like multiple kids with you or whatever, but it doesn't mean that you just shrivel up and die. I think that's why so many women get mad about it.
I think that, okay, I have this theory that 27, 28 is older than 32, 33. You're old when you turn 30, but you're young again when you turn 32, 33.
Yes,
You're old when you turn 40, but then you become young again at 42. That's what
I don't know about that. I'm still old.
It sounds
I'm still
younger.
really
40
old.
42 sounds younger than 40. I don't know what it is.
Yes, and 44 sounds so hot. Like you're at the gym, you're doing
I know.
Pilates,
Young
you're just
40 something.
yeah.
No, I'm telling you, you guys aren't 40 yet. I'm telling you, you're 40 and like the skin above your knees looks different. I'm telling you, you're not going to be like, yeah, no, this is not. It's not. It's not, I promise.
Hey, ladies, I know these are sensitive topics, but emo, I think that marriage is now dead in the water until harder times come into play. Also saying as a guy, but as long as we feel like we have no purpose or viewed as creeps, we'll detach from you. Ooh.
Agreed.
What do we think
Okay,
about
but
this?
why does every guy think that like it's like women are just like, here you go, here's your woman, here's your woman, here's your woman. It's like you have to work
Everyone
on yourself.
gets a standard issue.
That's what I'm saying.
Woman.
I think that now, okay, what I think the problem is with the red pill is that they don't want women to really understand that we are the prize. We are the more valuable sex because everything that a man does is to attain a woman. So all this red pill rhetoric is to knock women down so that we no longer like it's to confuse us.
We'll take the scraps.
Yeah,
Kinda.
but I don't think that I like what Lisa was saying, when you interview people on the street and the women are so proud to be like, yeah, I've been with 100 people. I don't think that's fucking crazy too. I mean, like we need to bring back shame, hide that a little bit. You don't have to talk about how you've been with 300 people in 365 days on a TikTok video.
You know why?
That's
because that
ridiculous.
impresses other women, I think. Like, I think there's some kind of showboating, gloating that goes on.
I think that impresses, they think it impresses other men, because you hear women all the time and you say, oh, like if a guy is interested in you, make sure you let him know you have other options or you're not available or you're whatever. Right.
Yes.
And so then they think that because a lot of men want to be with them and they've had a lot of men, they're clearly more desirable than their counterparts to
I also
other men.
think because I used to be someone who would like brag about my number when I was very young. I was in my 20s or whatever. But like it was regardless of what the number was. It's just I remember being younger and bragging, and I think it's a form of armor. For me, it was like I'm armoring myself with this. It's like, oh, I have kind of similar to what Lisa's saying. I have all these options. I don't need you because I've already had this many, and I'm not like the other girls who are gonna get attached and bring you down.
Yeah.
And be a bore.
It's a self-handicap.
I'm a fun girl who's like being fun.
The other thing though, what Lila was saying is like they want to bring women down. I think everybody needs to be brought down a little bit, right? You see these women and they're getting swiped yes to 100 times on dating apps, right? And they think they're like hot shit. Like you see it. Remember when we were young? I don't know. I'm way older than you guys, but like the popular girl in school that was really hot, like if she got too ahead of herself, people would be like, oh, she's conceited.
I'll never forget.
Yeah. You were like, that girl's conceited. Do you remember that word? We don't even use that word anymore. Conceited, right?
Yeah.
And so now you have all these women like, I'm a 10. Like, no, you're clearly not, right? We've told women to love themselves so much that they think they're 10s. They think they can get 1% of the men. And with dating apps, in plenty, you could swipe to the next guy in the next 20 towns over, in the next state over. It used to be you were in your neighborhood, you guys kind of self-sorted with the hot guys and the hot girls and the medium people and right. But now we
find your person in high school and that's it. And it's a wrap.
Right.
But maybe we're going back to the times where like, the super rich king would just impregnate like 50 women and then they would all be with the king. You know what I'm saying? And now the janky sperm dudes that are just, janky and can't provide, they just shit out of luck. Like you're staying in the basement, you're not working out, you're not going to get to impregnate everybody. And only the strong, I work out, I make millions of dollars, I've got a yacht, is gonna, like the Andrew Tates of the world. He's got how many baby mamas? Elon Musk has like how many? You know what I mean? He's got like 11? I don't know how many kids he has. Or Nick Cannon, he has a ton of kids, and nobody has a problem with that because it's like it's Nick Cannon. Honestly, if I was a dude, I'd be out spreading my seed. I'd go to multiple different countries. I would just have, retirement plans all over the country with these kids that will find me later, and hopefully one of them gets rich and I can go live in their house.
But
That's what I
just
would
like,
do.
but Lila, just like
That's
girls are
violent.
high, just like girls are high, like putting themselves high up, like thinking they're 10s and stuff. Men now, because of porn and because of swiping and whatever, they have these, and women using filters and airbrushing their bodies and like all that stuff. Men think that every woman should be a 10 too. Right. So their expectations are too high. Right. So that their expectations are wildly out of
It
control.
won't accept a girl who's a virgin, who doesn't do makeup, who's not like dressing hot.
Yeah.
Maybe
Like
it will.
nothing is
Maybe it
lining
will.
up here. Like
Yeah, well, you know what? Hey, maybe take
It's
pride
out of
in the
control.
fact that you might be the last Mohican of your family line. Like, it ends with you. It ends with me. This is it. We ain't going forward. It's done. Beam me up. Take me to the next realm.